ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
This is a really vivid demonstration of what's called the insider threat.
Just days into the new school year, Sweetwater Union High School District is investigating an online math class interrupted by an audio recording of loud sexual noises. Good evening, I'm Lindsay Pena.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Distance learning got underway this week for thousands of students in that district because of the pandemic. As our ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer Kastner learned, this is not the first disruption.
A spokesperson said Thursday they're now evaluating their protocols to increase security for online learning. On this first week of school, Chula Vista's Olympian High stands empty, but its classrooms online are already full of major disruptions. Thursday, Sweetwater Union High School District confirmed that on Wednesday, a loud audio recording with inappropriate sexual tones started playing during a virtual math class. A district spokesperson said disruptions have happened across a few of its schools, adding, "Over the past couple of days, we've had some incidents reported to administration of students not belonging to a class entering a Google Meet session and creating disruptions. The district believes students are sharing online classroom access information. It says it's not concerned that outside hackers are responsible.
The way that Google Meet works is basically once you create a meeting, then anyone who's in the same organization, which any students or any faculty members would be, they can join any meeting if they get their hands on a link.
San Diego cybersecurity expert Ted Harrington is with Independent Security Evaluators.
I think really the interesting element to the story is that this is a really vivid demonstration of what's called the insider threat. And that's that any organization, one of the attacker groups that people need to worry about is the actual people that are already trusted by that organization.
In this case, the attackers would be the students who are given access to Google Meet. The district wants to ensure the community that it's taking these disruptions seriously so that they don't continue to happen. The district said they are working to identify the individuals who are responsible. It said there will be consequences just like students would face if they made disruptions in a traditional classroom setting. Jennifer Kastner, ABC 10 News.
We're getting a closer look at how COVID-related restrictions are being enforced throughout the county. New numbers from the Sheriff's Department show nearly 1,000 violations were made, but only 5 resulted in a citation. ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer De La Cruz looks into what neighborhoods have the most offenders.
The debate has been ongoing since the pandemic started, many following social distancing and mask guidelines, while others choose not to, citing, among other concerns, a violation of their rights. Scenes like these in Ocean Beach Wednesday night causing major concerns for others. Hundreds of people close together, few to no masks in sight. The problem getting so bad, the Obi Town Council submitting multiple complaints to the city, asking for more police enforcement. The Obi Town Council says they've seen unpermitted food vendors, drug sales, and have collected more than 6,000 gallons of trash in the past 8 weeks.
We feel like we're being disrespected. You know, we call it mayhem in Ocean Beach, and that's really what it is right now.
Non-compliance with the rules is happening at a county level too. The Sheriff's Department releasing new numbers Thursday on COVID-related violations. From July 6th to August 5th, deputies responded to calls where they found 970 violations, but only 5 citations were issued. The county says that's because they're focusing more on educating people about the rules rather than citing them. Year to date, there have been 144 citations issued by the department. Cities with the most offenders were Encinitas with 43 citations, 22 in Poway, 17 in Julian, and 11 in Lakeside. Citations result in a $1,000 fine and/or 6 months in jail. In July, the county issued cease and desist orders for Awaken, Lighthouse Baptist, and Skyline churches for continuing to hold services indoors. The gym in Pacific Beach was ordered to close after a community outbreak was confirmed while they defied indoor restrictions. Jennifer Campbell's office has also reached out to the city asking for more police enforcement of the rules. Jennifer De La Cruz, ABC 10 News.
And ABC 10 News reached out to the city for their numbers on violations and what they're doing to address non-compliance. We're still waiting to hear back.
Now to the latest numbers on the coronavirus here in San Diego County. There are 6 new outbreaks, 1 in a preschool, 2 in business settings, 2 in healthcare settings, and 1 in a restaurant. There are now 263 new cases. That brings our total to more than 31,000. And 5 new deaths for a total of 583. And with the number of Americans losing jobs at historic highs, a lot of people are wondering, are we seeing more empty storefronts around San Diego as a result of this? Our ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl goes in depth on the latest numbers.
The numbers seem to be piling up in San Diego County. 4 locations of 24-hour fitness shut down. 7 Pier 1 import stores about to close, on top of the 4 that have already done so. But there were actually fewer for lease signs in the county than you might expect in the second quarter of 2020, says Michael Combs of commercial real estate firm CDRE.
Right now, the market is staying stable despite a lot of the headlines and things that we're seeing in the news. Some of that may be indicators that are lagging, but that also just may be some impacts that may never come to fruition.
Their data shows San Diego's vacancy rate in the retail sector increased slightly to 5.6%. That's basically the percentage of empty storefronts, and it's pretty close to normal. But Combs says vacancies are a lagging indicator.
In the case of those national chains, they're often focused on liquidating and redistributing product for a period of time after the announcement. So it'll take time for them to actually vacate the space.
However, the number of retailers signing new leases dropped nearly 50% in San Diego County during the pandemic to the lowest level in nearly a decade. An early indicator that companies may be holding off on expanding to larger spaces. Even with companies signing fewer new leases, Combs says demand for vacant space is still high, and there's still time for struggling retailers to recover before big vacancies kick in. He says it all depends on how the pandemic plays out over the next 3 to 6 months. Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
And of course, the pandemic has prompted some building owners to make concessions, but CBRE says the average asking price for commercial leases has remained flat compared to last year. If you have a story that requires an in-depth look, ABC 10 News is listening. Send your ideas to tips@10news.com.
Today, the U.S. State Department lifted its advisory warning U.S. citizens against traveling abroad. That advisory was in place for 4 months due to COVID-19. The CDC still recommends against traveling to more than 200 destinations around the world. And this also doesn't mean Americans are allowed to go everywhere. The European Union has blocked entry to U.S. tourists, and the U.K. requires travelers from the U.S. to quarantine for 14 days. Well, more than 4.8 million Americans have tested positive for coronavirus, and more than 158,000 people have died. Texas is close to 500,000 confirmed cases, many hospitals filled to capacity. Researchers from Children's National Hospital and George Washington University Hospital now finding a disproportionate number of non-white children in the Washington, D.C. area are becoming infected with the virus.
It's not a good feeling at all, especially for me that I'm being a first-time mom.
Increasing restrictions around the country are seeming to help. An internal FEMA memo obtained by ABC News shows new cases are decreasing in 45 states, a 10.7% decrease in new cases. There's also a declining increase in deaths over the past week. Well, fears are mounting that lawmakers won't pass any economic legislation to help American families hit hard by the pandemic. Today, jobless claims topped 1 million for the 20th straight week. ABC's Andrew Dimbert is in Washington with the latest on the stimulus stalemate.
Unyielding and unrelenting, Democrats and Republicans are continuing with their political game of chicken as talks of a new coronavirus economic relief package drag on.
Schumer doesn't want to do anything, neither does Pelosi.
We believe the patient needs a major operation while Republicans want to apply just a Band-Aid.
The Senate planning to skip its traditional August recess until a bill is passed. But Republicans have concerns over the potential price tag of a bill and feel if Americans get too much extra unemployment money, they will be reluctant to return to work.
We just don't think it's remotely fair for the federal government to tax essential workers who kept working every day so that Uncle Sam can pay their neighbors a higher salary to stay home.
Democrats are demanding money for state and local governments hit hard by COVID-19 and that the supplemental $600 unemployment benefit be extended into next year, especially with the national unemployment rate above 11%.
But they wanted to get back to work. They believe in work. They know that unemployment is a temporary help, and they got to get back on their own feet as quickly as possible.
The deadlock over the extra $600 is threatening the entire economic relief effort.
This $600 is only helping me get by. There are no jobs.
After Congress passed the CARES Act months ago, it was expected they'd pass another, but now it's not so clear.
This is something that affecting our families to a level where you are pushing people to the streets, you are pushing people to alcoholism, to depression. We cannot pay our bills.
Over 1 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits for the 20th straight week. And in New York City, the mayor is urging Congress to ban most evictions for out-of-work Americans who fall behind on rent.
If you don't have a source of income, how the hell are you going to pay the rent?
And it's starting to look like a stimulus deal will be an all-or-nothing approach, as neither side seems to be willing to make any major concessions. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, Washington.
And in other news, the downtown building you see here has been sitting vacant for most of the last 4 years. And every day it does, it costs you, the taxpayer, another $18,000. The city now has to decide whether to sink tens of millions of dollars more to fix the building or walk away. Our ABC 10 News reporter John Horn explains how we got here.
The coronavirus pandemic has cleared out office buildings across downtown San Diego. But emptiness is business as usual for the old Sempra building at 101 Ash. In 2016, the city approved a lease-to-own agreement for the building valued at $72 million. The idea was to move upwards of 1,100 city employees into the facility. But officials quickly discovered a series of problems requiring major renovations to 19 floors. Finally, in December of 2019, the city began moving workers into the building, only to vacate a month later when the county found traces of asbestos.
Closed again?
So how did the city get into this mess? Well, this new investigation shows that the city never really did its homework for such a big purchase. The law firm Hugo Parker found that, quote, at no time did the city formally inspect 101 Ash before closing escrow. In January, Councilmember Barbara Bree showed ABC 10 News a document that the city accepted the property as is.
That is stupid to do when you're doing a long-term lease purchase on a building that was built in the 1960s.
An additional new report from Kitchell says the building needs $115 million of repairs, well more than what the city paid for it. John Horn, ABC 10 News.
The council now must decide whether to stay the course, sell the building at a loss, pursue a new landlord, try to renegotiate its lease, or walk away entirely, despite the risk of litigation and credit damage. We'll let you know what they decide later this evening. 2 men are wanted for hate crime charges after attacking protesters in Imperial Beach back in June. This is photographs and video from the Black Lives Matter protesters who marched peacefully through the area. Arrest warrants were issued today for 38-year-old Jeffrey Brooks and 32-year-old Henry Brooks Jr. Prosecutors say both men threw eggs and shouted at protesters. Jeffrey Brooks is also accused of sucker punching a black journalist who was just there covering the protest. The two are facing a number of charges and 3 to 6 years in prison.
The trial for the man accused of opening fire in the Chabad of Poway synagogue last year has been delayed again. John T. Ernest will not go on trial until at least March 15th of next year. The jury trial was supposed to start this last June, but was delayed due to COVID. The now 20-year-old is accused of killing Lori Kay and injuring 3 others at the Chabad in Poway. The San Diego County District Attorney's Office says it will seek the death penalty. A state senator says he is one step closer to fixing the loophole that allowed the Poway synagogue shooting to happen. SB 914 passed the Assembly Public Safety Committee yesterday. It is backed by Senator Anthony Portantino, who says the bill would prevent people under the age of 21 from illegally buying a firearm. The bill is now headed for a fiscal committee and floor vote. If it passes, it will go to the governor for his signature. New York's Attorney General is suing the NRA in an attempt to put it out of business. Attorney General Letitia James claims that top executives of the powerful gun advocacy organization illegally diverted tens of millions of dollars from misspending funds. Those include lavish personal trips and no-show contracts for other associates and other questionable expenditures. The NRA responded by filing its own lawsuit against James for defamation and violating its rights to free speech.